The Planet Green Trees Show.
You know, it's not like they're dealing with stupid people anymore that are ignorant to all of the system and that are just going to sit back and take it. Wow. Every person I talked to today with a problem with the system, they're all aware. There's not a lot of dummies out there anymore. People have access to information now like no other. And they know that they're calling bunco on the system. And that's why there's people out protesting in the streets all over the place. It's not because of this one isolated incident. This was the isolated incident was the scab that was peeled back off a wound that's been festering for well over 30 years.
Longer.
First of all, let me say this. I was trying to play devil's advocate, and there's no way I'm going to be able to say it that doesn't either sound offensive or kind of outlandish. But I was trying to make the argument that this prosecutor was presenting, which essentially was, it was in response to the defunding, defunding. And I'm not advocating for defunding. I'm not advocating for removing government immunity or government immunity. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there's still crime. There's still rapes and robberies and murders and
those are the crimes they should be focusing on.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Defund doesn't necessarily mean take all money away from police agencies. I think most people would agree there has to be a police presence. Defund essentially is a poorly named action that involves reallocating funds and redesigning how we fund police to do exactly what you're talking about, Michael. Take away the policing for profit and remove the Bethany Christian Services and all the payments they make for confiscating children, which is essentially what they do.
And I was just going to make this point as I was arguing devil's advocate with myself, but the antagonist to any kind of police reform is is that, there's all this violence, and a lot of the violence is taking place in these neighborhoods, quote unquote, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the number of shootings, quote unquote, are proportionally.
And what percentage of murders are solved in the state of Michigan?
Here's my point, though. What's overlooked oftentimes, arguing with that position, is that the war on drugs created the level of violence that we have.
The war on drugs did, yes.
So this is overlooked.
Yes.
Whatever that is that you're describing was birthed out of the war on drugs, and you're not gonna. You have to recognize that none of those individuals, whomever they may be, didn't come out of the womb wielding, an AK-47 looking to do a drive-by. That's not a thing that was even But it requires us to take a bigger look at how we got here, really, and a lot of it goes back to all the reasons. It was the Nixon proclamation of wanting to lock people up because they're black, but instead, using marijuana as the method was
it's outrageous.
It took all of the steam out of the civil rights movement that was taking place right there. Any of the potential progress that took place instead did the absolute opposite and tore apart neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood that just decimated the community. And if there's a connection to those arguments of why, there is this kind of violence that comes out of some of these neighborhoods that are being referred to as why you need policing, et cetera, it is directly a causal, right. Not even like.
Well, and you have to understand. I mean, if for anybody that has ever lived in the city of Detroit, and it's gotten a lot better as of late, I understand, but I mean, I can tell you stories of several violent events that I was in the vicinity for in the city of Detroit, where you'd call for the authorities and they weren't coming, and you have the folks that live in the city that engage with the police. They call for help, they don't come, or at least they weren't coming in time to be of any assistance. But when they do show up, they end up taking your brother or taking your husband or taking your kid. Well, of course, it is impossible to develop a healthy relationship with the police when that is the dynamic.
The Planet Green Trees Show.